everybody, my name is Ms Vee, coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Alright, so Ms Vee, your music combines elements of R&B, soul, and hip-hop. How did you develop your unique sound and style?
Actually, I grew up in a small town called Fort City, Arkansas. And I started out at 10 years old taking piano lessons. My music teacher then put me in his blues and jazz band. And so I started playing blues and jazz as a kid, 10, 11, 12 years old. I was going to play in these nightclubs as a kid. And interestingly, I was kind of resentful because I was young and I wanted to, play the hip new music. And the irony that, 30 years later, that it would be my element, right? It was my thing. And so between that and I was a minister, I played minister music for several churches. The influence of gospel on soul music, is just undeniable, right? And so I kind of infuse a little bit of both into shows, kind of like the same way that James Brown did or Ray Charles did. So that's where it comes from.
Okay, awesome. So your latest single has been receiving a lot of positive feedback. Can you tell us about the inspiration behind the song and the message you aim to convey?
6 days a week? 6 days a week was actually a song that I wrote. I was in a polyamorous relationship. My boyfriend, of course, it's very unconventional. Not very unconventional for Portland, but for the rest of the world. And there's always this assumption around what that looks like, right? There's always an assumption that the man has all these women just pining over them. And so I wanted to write a song about that, to play on that, because he would come to my house on Fridays and he leaves on Mondays. And so 6 days a week, I can hardly sleep waiting on Friday. That was really talking about that. But then in the video, I don't know if you saw the music video, in the concept, I wanted to show where he had all of these women, but then when he goes home, we then bring our boy toy in. All right? So it was just a playful song, very based on a true story, but he did not have all of those women. He just had another girlfriend. Okay. We broke up, but yeah. It's still a great song. I sang it yesterday.
I love that song. I just listened to it this morning, actually. Again, wow. I've been listening to it for a while now.
Wow, thank you.
No problem. I love it. So as a female artist in the music industry, what challenges have you faced and how have they shaped your artistic journey?
Ooh. Well, as a woman in music, and I think just a woman in the world in general, we appear at the table. When I say the table, meaning the bargaining table of negotiating contracts, gigs, and things like that. Coming into this industry, women are hypersexualized, and even though I wear a lot of gowns and maybe they're low cut, that's not how I'm being compensated, right? And so, but I am a unionist by trade. I don't know if you know this. My day job, I work for a labor union. And so I negotiate union contracts for workers every day. That's my day job. And so for me, it doesn't impact me as much because I come with a bulldog mentality when it comes to negotiating my contracts. And then I'm also now the vice president of the Musicians Union here in Portland, AFM Local 99.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. Your lyrics often touch on a personal experience or empowerment. How do you use your music to connect with the audience on a deeper level?
So I like to pick songs that people can identify with, whether they are my songs that I wrote, and a lot of the songs, I can't write unless I'm feeling something, right? I have to be feeling really good about somebody, or I got to be really feeling bad about somebody, right? But if I'm just in a nice little safe zone, I get writer's block. But when I'm feeling good or feeling bad, that's when the music tends to really, really flow, right? And so people connect with those experiences. It's a human experience, love lost, love when it's feeling good, love when it's feeling at its worst, right? Love is something that people can often always connect with because it's something we aren't experiencing it now. It's something that we want to experience.
Definitely. So can you share with us some of your musical influences and how they've influenced your sound and career?
Ooh, so my music influences, first of all, I love John Legend. I actually slow danced with him for my 30th birthday, but we'll save that story for another day. I love John Legend because his sound is just that what we talked about earlier. It's that that church thing, and he also started out playing in church, so he infuses that sound. Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, James Brown. I love James Brown. I love the horns. I love me a good horn section. And so those are some of my influences and how they shaped where I am right now. Like, I love Jill Scott and I love Erykah Badu and all these neo-soul singers. And I would do those songs but not receive the same response that I would receive when I did some Aretha or something like that. And I just realized that that's my sweet spot, right? And I found my sweet spot and I stay in my zone. I'm not trying to go out here and be Kim Burrell, you know, these folks with these fantastic runs. I have a strong, powerful gospel church soul voice and I use it that way.
I definitely hear the Franklin and Brown when I listen to your music, like 100%. I didn't want to say anything because, like, you know, making assumptions with that kind of thing. But, like,
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I'm glad that I was able to, like,
You were
key in
spot
on
on,
that.
honey.
I love that. So collaboration is a key aspect of the music industry. Can you talk about any memorable collaborations you've had and the impact that they've had on your growth as an artist?
So in New Hampshire, I had a band, Ms Vee, and a badass band. Well, let's roll back the gospel piece. Just being a minister of music and working for churches really prepared me for where I am right now, because when I would play for these churches as a musician, I would not only play the piano, I would teach the choir their parts, you know, the vocal parts, right? I would direct the band. So when you fast forward and I go on stage now, I'm a different type of artist, right? It's one thing to show up at the table as a singer. It's a whole other thing to show up as a singer and a musician with MD background, right? And so, for example, the show that we put on the Rock the Boat Blues Cruise yesterday, me and those musicians never rehearsed. I sent them a set list and said, hey, this is what we're singing. I sent them a YouTube link of, you know, my original songs or songs in the style that I would want to see them done in. We just showed up and I did it, and I was able to direct that band on stage. And not a lot of folks can do that. If you don't have that MD background, it's almost impossible. You gotta have those rehearsals.
That's like a really veteran thing.
It is.
Extremely veteran.
Absolutely, it is.
I love that. That's awesome. So your performances are known for their energy and engaging stage presence.
Yes.
How do you prepare for your live shows and connect with your audience during your performances?
Well, you know what? I feel like when I go on stage to give the audience an experience, right? It's not just they're just coming to hear some music. I want to engage them. When people pay their money to see Ms Vee, they know they're going to get a show. They know Ms Vee is going to show up in a ball gown dressed to the nines, right? I read Bobby Rush, who is like, they call him the king of the chitlin circuit, right? Bobby Rush has been like playing for years. He's one of the last men standing of the king of the blues. And in his book, he talked about how he does a lot of wardrobe changes and he dresses really nice. And he said an artist had told him years ago that when people pay money to come and see you, right, you should show them that you appreciate that. And they really appreciate when you dress up to come see them, right? And so when I show up in these glamorous ball gowns, they're already excited. And then I get out and I engage them and I let them know, hey, I'm human too. I put on my shoes just like yours. And it often like, it catches me off guard when people are like, oh my God, it's Ms Vee. I'm like, I pay my rent just like you. You know, but I'm not gonna be the snooty person who, you know, makes it big or makes a name for himself and then forget about where I come from. You know, I am a minister in this work. And when I say minister, meaning doing service work, going out to the people to make them feel good, right? I want them to leave my show feeling like Ms Vee saw them, Ms Vee understood them, Ms Vee connected with them.
I love that. That's a great answer too. So your music tackles important social issues including love, self-acceptance, and resilience. How do you balance creating enjoyable music while addressing these meaningful topics?
I think it's important because the power of music is so palpable and powerful that it's important that we use that stage not for just to make people feel good and have a good time, but to also make people think, right? It's important, yeah, you know, you get on stage and you sing these songs, but, you know, what are you really saying? Is there a bigger message that you need to deliver? I don't go political on stage, but we're going to talk about some social justice issues that impact people, right? And I remember when I went to the International Blues Competition in 2019, and actually Bobby Rush was speaking there then, and there was a white male artist in the crowd, and he raised his hand and asked him, when was he going to stop talking about race, right? You know, and I'm like, this is a godfather in the blues industry. He's a king, he's a giant, and how dare you show up and then challenge him to stop talking about race and only talk about music. Well, guess what? As a black artist, we don't get to not talk about music because it's our lived experience. The only time I ever got to exist in the world without being reminded that I was black is when I went to Ghana. And I didn't even realize that I hadn't experienced life, what life looked like, right? When you're not constantly reminded that you're different, right? That you're black. And when I went to Ghana, I was like, oh, I can let my guard down, right? I don't have to keep my head on the swivel, right? And so it's important for people to connect those dots, right? We can't say we're colorblind in music because in America we're not colorblind. Hell, in the world we're not colorblind, right? It was even it wasn't until I went to Europe, right? And someone said to me I was American. I couldn't even identify with that because I was like, oh, I am American, right? Because here I'm black. I'm black first, and then I'm American. But when I go outside of the country, then I'm American first, right? And it had never dawned on me until I went outside of the country. And so it's just that important that we continue to talk about these things because the only way we make them better is that we have these conversations. And sometimes it's easier to have those conversations with music. People can digest it a little bit better when it comes over a sweet melody.
Definitely. And it's one of those things too. I've had a lot of military friends that were stationed in Germany, and they say they teach their kids there about the things they're past so that they don't do it in the future.
Absolutely.
Again.
That's important.
Yeah.
You have to be able to not repeat the past. Like there are patterns, right? And when you see it, you got to cut it off the end and explain why we shouldn't be doing these things and what these things lead to if we don't address them now.
100%. Can you share any advice for inspiring artists who are trying to find their own unique voice and break into the music industry right now?
Yeah, just be yourself. Don't try to mimic anyone else. Don't beat yourself up because you don't sound like someone else. I remember I used to try to practice these extravagant runs that I would hear these artists do, and I realized that is not the will of God for my life. Sarcasm. But no, seriously, you know, everyone doesn't have that voice, and I realized that the voice that I bring to the table is the voice that folks want to hear. They don't want to hear me attempting to do something that's not authentic for me, right? They want to hear you in your own true form, your own true self. So don't go out trying to copy someone else's style. Don't go out trying to be someone else or be like someone else. Be 100% you, and the people will accept you the way that you are.
So as an independent artist, what are some of the advantages and challenges you've encountered, and how have you navigated them through your career?
Just, you know, having a day job, of course. You know, when you have a day job, it's kind of hard to balance the whole gig schedule plus day job. Because sometimes, like previously, I traveled a lot for my work. Now that I'm in Portland, I don't have to travel as much, but I just took a position where I'll have to travel again. That will limit the amount of gigs I can take, right? I have to look at my gig calendar and my work calendar and try to reconcile the two. So that's like one of the major things because, you know, we can't eat off of what these gigs pay, right? Unless you're a big name touring act and you're selling out arenas, right? It's like, or you have some other sort of source of income to supplement your income or partner. You know, it's pretty hard to go out and just be an independent artist. And so I have to continue to have my day job. We saw a lot of musicians become homeless during the pandemic, right? Because this was their bread and butter. And when the world shut down, it made me realize even more that I don't think I can ever do music full time because like the thought of waking up one day and I have zero source of income because I can't leave my home is super scary to me. So that's a major challenge, just like the income, negotiating, you know, getting pay that would allow us to survive. And so for me, a lot of the music that I do or the gigs that I do is for fun. It's not to pay the bills, right? I'm giving y'all music because I love to have fun on stage and interact with people. I'm a people person. But it's definitely not to pay the bills.
Right. I don't think that, like, you give me the impression that, like, you would, like, not want to not work. Like, I feel like you
Absolutely.
like to have that.
Yes, and I love, so my day job, like, that's what I want to do till I retire, right? It's one of those things where if I could do it for free, I would do it for free, because it's just like helping people, like the underdog, right? The person in the workplace who's been accused of something that they didn't do and they need someone to show up to support them. Like, I love being that person, and at the end of the day, that gives me more value, more worth than any song I could ever write, right? Or song I could ever sing. Just knowing that I'm helping someone else to be able to provide for their family, for their kids, you know, and even to climb the ladder in their workplace.
So your music videos, often visually stunning and thought-provoking concepts, how do you approach the creative process of translating your songs into captivating visual storytelling?
When you just take this, I feel like that you take the song and you tell the story, right? And that's even on stage. I don't know if you know, I do stand-up comedy too, right? Yeah, I do stand-up comedy. And my cousin is the godfather, the black godfather of black comedy, Michael Williams of the Comedy Act Theater out in LA. And I remember when I first started doing comedy, he was like, you know, you've got to get on stage and tell a story. And I was like, I do that already in music, right? And he was he was my mentor, and he was teaching me how to weave these stories. I'm like, I kind of already do that. And so it's just being authentic, right? Whatever the song gives, and that's what you give on stage. That's what you give in the concept of the video. And of course, if you want to play around with the concept, you know, you also want to make people think, like in the 6 Days a Week video, right? To make people think that this guy was just lucky enough to have all these women, but then plot twist. We've got a sugar baby too.
Yeah. So, looking ahead, what can we expect from Ms Vee in terms of upcoming projects or collaborations? Are there any specific goals or dreams you're working towards in your music career right now?
Well, I just, my good friend Chad Rupp just released an album. Chad Rupp and the Sugar Roots, and the name of that album is The Devil Won't Get You, right? I am on 3 songs on that album. He released it yesterday at the Blues Festival, in fact, and I look forward to doing more collaborations. I like doing the background vocals on that, and so I would love to do that. I don't think I want to release my own solo project because of the work and dedication that would go with that. And they have, the name of that studio is Lightning in a Bottle Record. That record label is phenomenal. I saw them crank out that album, and it looked like, you know, a couple of months. And I might be overestimating that. But they cranked out that album. The quality, the sound quality, the mastering engineering is just so good, right? And it's affordable for me to do. But, and they talked to me about that, and I was like, but if I record an album, it would just to be recorded, because I'm not going to go promote it. I'm not going to go on tour. I'm not going to, you know, push the sales. I like to go on stage, you know, sing, connect with people, go home. That's it, right? And if something, they'd have to offer me a pretty big, substantial contract for me to walk away from my day job and guaranteed health insurance and my good negotiated union benefits.
Right? That's fact. That's fact.
Yeah.
So let's end it with this. If you had the ability to collaborate with any artist right now, who would it be?
John Legend.
I love it.
John, if you're listening, I have this amazing song. I actually wrote it when I was in college, and the name of this song is My First Christmas Without You. And I've been trying to get you this song for the longest. I've been tweeting you, I've messaged you on Instagram, and I know you're ignoring me. Chrissy, tell John to pick my song up so we can go and do the song together, get these points, right?
Love it. Thank you so much, Ms Vee. Thank you so much.